Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do a currently reading video. So I really enjoy doing these in the middle of the month to sort of check in a little bit with what I'm doing and not leave the first time that I talk about the things I'm reading for the wrap-ups. I feel like that is kind of overwhelming a little bit when I haven't talked about any of the books that I've been reading over an entire month. So I enjoy having these as sort of check-ins and to be able to talk about books as I'm reading them. And it also gives me an opportunity to sort through the books that I am reading because, like I showed you in my April currently reading video, I've been reading a lot of books at the same time and I'm finding my mind quite scattered, which has been reflected in my reading. So, as I said, I will show you and talk about the books that I'm currently reading. These are not all of the books that I have started, but they are the ones that I'm most actively reading at the moment. So, I'll start with the audiobook I have at the moment, and that is The Enchanted Places by Christopher Milne, and this is narrated by Peter Dennis. So this is the son of A. Milne, the author of the Winnie the Pooh stories. So it's Christopher Robin is the author, or the character that was named after Christopher Robin is the author. So he talks, in this book, he talks about his childhood and about his relationship with his father and mother and some of the complicated feelings he has towards being known as Christopher Robin, having this strong legacy connected to him and his identity as a child, and as I said, some of the complicated feelings he has related to that. I'm really enjoying the audiobook. It is narrated by the same person who does the narration for the Winnie the Pooh stories that I listened to in audio a year or so ago, I think. And it's just been a really nice book to have on audio when I'm knitting, and I'm enjoying hearing this side of the story. Obviously, it's kind of different to reading A. Milne's own writing. I will definitely finish it before the end of the month, and I'll talk more about it then. But I've definitely found it an interesting perspective to get, because he obviously has, as I said, he has sort of a tense relationship towards his fame and towards having been used for the Winnie the Pooh stories and his father's role in his life. And because I love the Winnie the Pooh stories as well as A. Milne's writing, it's just been an interesting sort of dynamic to read that side of the story. So let's get into the physical books I'm reading at the moment. So I have one book that I haven't actually even put a bookmark in because I started it today. So let's see if I can just hold it. That is Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata, and this was translated by Edward Seidensticker. I am doing a buddy read with Roxy from Chaotic Bibliophile. I will link her in the description below. And this is a Japanese classic. It came out in the 50s, and I've been wanting to read this one for a long time, but I have actually started reading it before and didn't enjoy it or didn't get into it. So when she talked about reading this one, I sort of jumped on it, and we decided to do a buddy read of this. I figured that would be a good motivator to finally get to this book and to have someone to discuss it with. So I've just started this one today, and I don't really have an opinion on it yet, but I think I'm enjoying it. I'll talk more about it in the wrap-up because I am sure I will be finishing it before the end of the month. Another buddy read that I have going at the moment, and that I also mentioned in my April currently reading video, is The Luminaries by Eleanor. I had just started this one, I think, in the previous currently reading video in April, and now I am on page 510, and so it's more than halfway through, and it's been really fun. I'm reading this with Lauren. I will put her booktube channel as well below, and it's a sort of epic scope historical mystery, really. So it's set in New Zealand, and it follows a group of men who they sort of have different jobs and occupations and interests, but they are all gathered around one mystery of a man's death, as well as the disappearance of another man. It's just a big mystery at the core of this book, and a lot of characters that somehow relate to the mystery and the consequences of it, and the who has something to gain from the death and the disappearance. So the just the first like 200 or 300 pages is a lot of setup, and then you get sort of into the core of the book. So I found it kind of slow to begin with, but I am currently really enjoying seeing the way that all of the puzzle pieces come together. So it's been kind of a journey. The last of the buddy reads that I have going at the moment is the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, and I'm reading the short stories of Sherlock Holmes, one short story per week, with Roxy and Amelia. So I will link Amelia as well in the description below. We finished the adventures of Sherlock Holmes in April and moved on immediately to the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. I had thought that I'd read this collection, but I haven't logged it in Goodreads, so I'm assuming I didn't finish it. But I have probably read a few of the stories in the collection. It's just been fun to have a Sherlock Holmes short story. One per week is the idea, but it hasn't really been that way because I usually miss a few weeks and then I catch up. Currently, I'm actually on pace with our buddy reads, so I'm really pleased about that. But the one we'll be reading tomorrow on Sunday is The Stockbroker's Clerk. So hopefully I'll actually continue to be on pace and on track with this. So I have two books that I am on the go with for Invisible Cities reading. So first we have my April book, which is The World of the Speechless by Julio Ribeyro, and this was translated by Catherine Silver. This is a short story collection, and there's a lot of short stories in this. I had initially obviously planned to finish this before April was done, and that did not happen. I have made progress. 6 stories left of this, and I am currently reading the 6th, one of those stories. And some of the stories I have really enjoyed. Some of them haven't really had an impact on me. So it's been a very mixed reaction for me. I think, generally speaking, as I mentioned in the previous currently reading video, I usually enjoy the atmosphere of the stories. Some of them I didn't do anything for me, but most of them I still enjoy. The atmosphere and the slightly sinister or dark tone to the stories, much like the House Guest collection that I read in March, but it's not at all as violent on the page. Some of the stories I have really enjoyed, and I'll talk more about those when I finish this collection. But I would like to concentrate on finishing this one off for my Peru book for Invisible Cities in the next coming weeks. So there's that. The other book that I'm currently reading for Invisible Cities has been more sort of an even reading so far, and that is The Impossible State, North Korea, Past and Future by Victor Cha. So this is a non-fiction book about North Korea, as you can probably tell, and it's talking about the politics of North Korea, the history of North Korea, and some of the reasons it's become the way it is, some of the relationship with other countries like Russia and the Soviet Union, as well as China, and it talks about the relationship between the US and North Korea. It's talking about the North Korean society and the state of that. In a lot of ways it has been exactly what I was hoping it to be, in the sense that it's giving me a lot of context to understand North Korean history and the way that the state developed into the way that we think of North Korea at the moment. But there's a few things that I sort of keep in mind when I'm reading this one. First of all, of course, it's the fact that it was published a few years ago. So with any type of politics related books, it's one of those things that very easily becomes outdated. So it was published in 2012, and also, of course, it is written by a US author, and not just that it is an American perspective, but it is someone who works alongside the White House or the president. I don't exactly know what his job title is. Victor Cha is the former director for Asian Affairs at the National Security Council. He was the US deputy head of delegation for the six-party talks concerned with the security risks posed by the North Korean weapons program. During his role as advisor to the White House, he spent in Pyongyang and is in a unique position to comment on North Korean affairs. The specific studies and work-related perspective he's coming from, as well as the national perspective he's coming from. And you can see that throughout his writing, especially the US-centric analysis and comments related to economics and related to security and human rights and all of those things. So it's always something to keep in mind when you're reading these kinds of books, that you're getting a particular perspective, especially from a country that we don't get a lot of information directly from North Korea. So all of those things said, I find that there's a lot of things related to the history especially that I was hoping to get from this book, that I'm learning and getting a better understanding, as I said, of the context of North Korea and its relation with the other countries involved in, as I said, China and Soviet Union especially, in the way its relationship between, the relationship between North and South Korea, some of the tensions between them, some of the problems within North Korea, and some of the ways that it's able to function the way it is, and also the ways it isn't functioning. So I'm finding a very rewarding reading experience, even with the caveats, as I mentioned. Lastly, we have the 3 books that I am currently reading that are sort of leftovers from Springathon. First, we have Spirals in Time, The Secret Life and Curious Afterlife of Seashells by Helen Scales, and I am halfway-ish with this one. Haven't been reading this one a lot since the Springathon was over, really, because I've been reading one of the other books that I'll show you in a minute, but it has been really interesting. I think it's talking about mollusks, as I mentioned previously, as well as about seashells themselves and the design of them and the evolution and all of those things, but also the way that they've been used by humans and the value that we have put into seashells. Generally speaking, I enjoy the mollusk aspect of this book more than I enjoy the human history aspect of it, and that I think is a lot of how I felt about Rainbow Dust by Peter Marin as well when I was reading that a few years ago, which is the butterfly book. When I read that, I remember thinking that I enjoyed the butterfly parts, the natural history part, more than I enjoyed the human history. But after reading it, it actually, a lot of the human history has been the thing that's stuck in my mind from that book. I would like to prioritize this one over the others, over the other 2 Springathon books, since I have made the most progress into this one. The other book that sort of took over for my Springathon reading in the last few days of the Springathon and also since then is Sea Room, An Island Life by Adam Nicolson. And this one is about Adam Nicolson. His father, I think, bought a island, the Cheyennes, and he inherited that, and talks about the island itself and its history, as well as talking about going there and becoming familiar with the island itself himself. So I'm enjoying it because it's all of the island things has been, it's just become a very common theme in a lot of the books that I've been picking up recently. So I've enjoyed the island setting and the wildness and roughness of the location itself. And then the last one I wanted to mention is Fathoms, The World in the Whale by Rebecca Giggs. So this is an Australian nature writing book about whales, as you can tell, and I started listening to this one on audio in April, Yes, in April, and I switched to the physical book when my copy arrived during the Springathon. And this one has been really good, but also kind of hard to read and at times, talking about whales, and that has been really interesting, and their natural history, but also it's talking about the health or the decline in health of marine life and of our oceans and waters in general. So it's depressing in the sense that a lot of it is of course caused by human action, but it's not just that it's been caused by humans, but that a lot of the things that has damaged marine life so much is thoughtless action, things that could have easily been avoided, and that's part of what I find so depressing about this. So far it's been really good, and it's also quite fun to read nature writing that isn't Europe-centered or American-centered, to have a different sort of wildlife talked about. So those are all of the books that I wanted to talk about today. I would love to know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts about them if you have. I would love to know what you are currently reading. Are you reading something for Springathon still, or something for Invisible Cities, or something completely different? I would love to chat with you in the comments below. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.